Game Process Data UI. Here you can set some data to be displayed on the screen. Exit button configuration and specific settings for the prompt box. In the Observation UI, the following configurations can be made: show or hide. If enabled, it will be displayed. If disabled, it will be hidden. It also supports conditional judgment. For example, if Global Switch 3 is enabled, it will be displayed. If disabled, it won't. For position settings, you can fill in X and Y coordinates to display on the screen. In the image, X is set to 100, Y is set to 1/5 of the screen position. Background asset, here you can fill in the background to bind. Background offset, adding fine-tuning to the background. Background transparency. The percentage in the text will be converted to the current specific value. Here you can input other text to combine. Extra offset for text. Also a fine-tuning based on the center. Text transparency. Format. Left align, center, right align. Enable dynamic effect. Once enabled, there will be a transition effect. For example, when adding 5 points, it will display 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in sequence. If disabled, it will directly display 5. Font size. Font transparency. Stroke width and stroke color. Note that sometimes, if you don't need a stroke, RM may still keep a minimum width of 1 pixel, so you can achieve a transparent effect by modifying the color. Set the transparency of the last color to RGBA 0000, then the stroke will not be displayed. Use Asset. If enabled, it will use the asset below. Then the above settings for font size, color, stroke, and stroke color will be overridden, and the asset size will be used. For the asset, you need to fill in the asset name. The format is a single sheet, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, plus asterisk, slash. Historical best level, and score, etc. The above configurations have the same parameters. But note that some games may not contain all the above data. Exit button. Exit button configuration. Here you can add for the game exit button. Show or hide, same as the UI above. In the image, the position is filled with game width -80, height -40, which is the top right corner. Button binding, you can specify a key if needed. After binding, the button can also be triggered by the key. Button's background image. You can edit the button's background image. Transparency. And whether there is a pressed effect. When enabled, pressing the button will have a pressed animation offset with depth 2 and Y2. Is there a hover effect? If enabled, when you hover the mouse over the button, there will be a highlight effect. When held down, it will turn to a darker gray. When the button is disabled, it will turn gray. The parameter settings are the same as the color adjustment function in the original game. Is there a function to switch images? When enabled, the button will have 3 state modifications. Hover, hold, and disabled will have suffix changes. For example, here we name it back. Then when hovering it will become back1.png, when pressed it becomes back2.png, when disabled it becomes back3.png. These 3 parameters. Button sound configuration, the sound played when pressing the button using SE sound effect. Volume, pitch, channel. Same as volume settings. Here is the sound range offset when pressing the button. For example, if you fill in 10, the generated sound will have a random percentage offset of 10%, which is between 81 and 99. Text. Whether to display text on the button. Text offset. Text transparency. Text alignment. Left, center, right. The above are the same as before. Font size, color, stroke color. Prompt box configuration. Here you bind the specific settings needed for displaying prompts in the game. The prompt box contains several cases: next level, victory, failure, and exit game. You can bind corresponding backgrounds for them: exit game, failure, next level, victory. The prompt box contains some buttons for interaction, where the next level button is bound to next level and the victory button is bound to victory. Failure. Confirm and exit buttons will be bound to the exit case. The button parameters are almost the same as those filled in for the previous exit button. But one thing to note: the position of the button is based on the prompt box as the origin, with an offset added to it. Here is the positioning of the prompt box. It includes a transition process: start position, hold position, end position. The prompt box enters and leaves with corresponding animation positions. Does the process include transparency changes? If enabled, during the transition, the transparency will change from 0 to 255, and when leaving, from 255 to 0. Scale change. After enabling, on entering, the ratio will change from 0 to 1. On leaving, the ratio will change from 1 to 0. This is the number of frames for the transition animation.